really appreciate all our esteemed panelists for sparing your time. And I can imagine some of you have really got a very packed schedule and in terms of travels. So really, we can't thank you enough for really accepting our invitation and accommodating our request in your busy schedules. To all, I mean, we have got participants coming from Pune, from Mumbai, and someone who is traveling to Mumbai immediately after the session. So without further ado, once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session. To the ones who have arrived just now, someone like Dr. Bhardwaj, welcome once again to this 7th edition of the ETAuto EV Conclave. The session's theme is 2 and 3 wheelers, the lead warriors. Warriors because, I mean, as we kind of, Indian EV industry crossed the very key milestone of 1 million units in terms of sales last year. It's worth noting, more than worth noting, that 95% or maybe a little more of that came from, in terms of volumes, came from 2 and 3 wheelers. And much of that is also, in fact, largely, the entire growth is, entire volumes is also fueled to a great extent by the support that the government has been extending in its, as part of its quest towards clean mobility for the country, which again is part of the nation's mission to go carbon neutral by 2070. Very important role to be played by the EV industry, and in that 2 and 3 wheelers are already taking the charge, so to speak. And as I said, with the very much needed crucial support from the government. So why don't I start off with someone who is representing the government as Director of Electric Mobility at NITI Aayog. Randheer Singh, who is the Director of Electric Mobility at NITI Aayog. Randheer, to start off with, how do you assess the performance of the EV industry, Indian EV industry? Well done, good, average, up to the mark, or perhaps some more to be done? And as far as NITI Aayog's perspective is concerned, do you think, perhaps all the intended benefits, all the intended results, all the intended goals of the FAME policy, particularly, not to mention the others are relatively new, PLI scheme and all, are being met? If not met, what can be done? Just your thoughts, please.
Sumantra, that's many questions bundled together. I'll try to answer. So first of all, we need to assess what happened in last couple of years in our country. Before 2021, before we remodeled the FAME 2, of course, the pickup of electric two-wheelers, we are the electric two. Basically, India is two-wheeler country. 76 to 80% are two-wheelers, around 3% are the three-wheelers. So this is the mass segment which needs to be transformed for sure. And that is why in 2021, when we remodeled the FAME 2, the entire incentive structure was changed. And after that, 15,000 rupees per kilowatt hour and total 40% cap. Of course, the price of the vehicle has to be below 1.5 lakhs for the two-wheelers. This is what we did. And the pickup is almost 10 times in the two-wheeler segment. But one good thing which I have seen in last couple of years is three-wheeler segment, which is almost plus 50% in terms of the new vehicle sales, only three-wheeler segment. Even without the incentive also, that sale is actually very high. In fact, of course, in our country, e-rickshaws can be called as the pioneers who are actually leading it. But now, even the L5 segment, yes, the sale is actually very high. So I think, if we want to assess how the market is developing, how the manufacturing is developing, go and see how the manufacturing capabilities and utilization of the factories is. If you go and place an order now, you are not going to get the vehicle, electric two-wheeler immediately. Yeah. So there are 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. That is the waiting period you have. Of course, there are reasons beyond the manufacturing, like we are still dependent upon a lot of imports for the cells, for the semiconductors, and of course, the batteries, motors, EV motors. So, but nevertheless, I think now the market is reaching towards the maturity level for the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler segment. Of course, four-wheelers and the buses segment, lot needs to be done. And the tender which was opened last year, the biggest tender, 5,450 buses for the wet lease, we are going to see that this is going to materialize this year. So we'll see those buses plying on the roads now. So 2023 is again going to be a remarkable year from the public transportation perspective. So I'm very hopeful, and not only hopeful, in fact, the fact-based judgment is that we are definitely on a right track.
Right, right. So you're saying that looks like 2023, there'll be more warriors, more than just the 2 and 3 wheelers.
For sure, for sure. In fact, we'll see better launches, better products which are 150,000 rupees more category, even 200,000 more category.
Those will also gain traction.
Yes, definitely.
Right. Suman, quite often we keep repeating this term megatrends. When it comes to electrification as a megatrend, perhaps it will be fair to say that it's moved at least in 2 and 3 wheelers, and especially in 3 wheelers, where and there are months where electrics have outpaced the conventionalized vehicles in terms of sales. It's moved beyond being a trend or a megatrend. It's almost mainstream now. So tell us, what is your reading of the movement of the market in the 3 wheeler space, and especially in the L5 category, and how do you see the progression here on?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, great to be here. And thanks, NITI, for the excellent policies that have supported this megatrend. But I'll just clarify a bit. When we say that the new 3-wheeler sales have outpaced, the electric sales have outpaced the conventional, that's really because we are mixing the e-rickshaws in the mix. So e-rickshaws are 100% electric, right? There is no optionality there for conventional. So you have to parse that separate. And there are numerous other types of issues, challenges with e-rickshaws, although they serve a pretty important need gap. So if you go to the L5 segment, the penetration is around 8 or 9%. It's not really, 20, 30%, which would be the true inflection point. So actually, if you look into the streets of Delhi or Bombay, you're unlikely to find electric L5 vehicles today. So what I think it is at is, it's reached a very good pace, because I think towards the end of last year it was maybe at around 3%, and already this quarter we are ending at 7%, so or 8%. So it's a significant growth. It's happening driven by economics. So that is probably the best part of the story, that it is not happening because of, say, climate change or other reasons. It happens because the person who drives the electric 3-wheeler saves more money.
Pure economics.
Pure economics. And that is always the best way to grow a segment. So I'm quite hopeful and positive that we'll reach 25 to 30% in maybe, say, another 2-3 years. That obviously requires a lot of ecosystem solutions, some changes in the financing environment, some changes in, say, the policy support. But because this is catching momentum, because this is happening due to economics, I think this is a change that is a megatrend that has happened, and it is here to stay.
Indeed. Right said there. And let me come to Mohal. In the 2-wheeler space, the EV megatrend is also influencing the consumers' way of acceptance of a vehicle, and the way to look at a vehicle, and especially more so in electric motorcycles, for example. But in terms of volumes, scooters are leading the charge. So what is your take on the motorcycle front of in India for electrics?
So, India.
Yeah.
India is a country that's predominantly run on motorcycles, and one thing about a 2-wheeler user that we really need to appreciate is that when we look at India, we have to look at 35 different countries put together. The geography, the cultures, the way we look at vehicles, the way we perceive them, the way we customize them. This is at a personal level, and as was rightly said, that the 3-wheeler space is being driven by economics. Here is a personal choice, and there's an emotion attached to it. So India predominantly runs on 2-wheelers, predominantly runs on motorcycles. The lack of options for a consumer to pick from, predominantly there are scooters available, but Today, there are a handful of companies which are actually offering a product which is something that the consumer can pick instead of an internal combustion vehicle. And we are just starting this long journey, and it is going to be something that's going to be driven by a lot of innovation, a lot of platform approach, a lot of push, including the policies that are coming in from the government side. These things, I think in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see motorcycles really kind of take the lion's share of the two-wheeler space.
Oh, that's interesting to note, because what currently it's quite a contrast to what is there in the conventional ICE two-wheelers. But good to see that, good to know that you are very bullish on the potential share of motorcycles in the two-wheeler space.
And I mean, there are reasons why India runs on motorcycles. Those reasons fundamentally haven't changed.
Haven't changed. Be it,
so,
I mean, it's not dependent on the propulsion technology. Right?
It is not dependent on the propulsion technology. It's more to do with the use cases, be it rural areas, be it aspirational values. There are other aspects beyond, way beyond the propulsion technology, which are really going to be driving this trend. And that is where motorcycles are here to stay. They are not going anywhere away. And over and above, it's just because there were no options available.
Correct.
Till now, for the consumer to choose. That's how I will park the inverse trend right now.
Yeah.
But eventually, it will come to a level playing field where people will have enough choices between scooters, motorcycles, and that is the true day, and that's going to be the true test of an electric motorcycle.
I'm sure at least some of your thoughts will be, kind of echoed by the panelists at the corner,
Yep.
who is a fellow electric motorcycle maker as well as a racer himself. But I'll come to him as well. But let me come to Vivek. This whole electric mobility megatrend is also really encouraged and resulted in the birth of a lot of new players. And one of them is ETA. MTA e-mobility, which is one of the latest players to enter this space, and it's got some very aggressive plans, and they are planning to enter in multiple segments, starting with three-wheelers, perhaps two-wheelers next. Vivek, now what is it, how much of a bet of the overall strategy are you putting on two and three-wheelers for MTA e-mobility?
So, thanks Sumantra, pleasure to be here, and good afternoon to all. But first of all, let me clarify, we have no intention entering into the two-wheeler segment so far, so at least the foreseeable future. So, yes, three-wheeler segment per se, especially in the L5 category, I fully agree with Sumanji that this is the segment which is basically, this segment has not much to do with the environment change or for that matter any kind of a technology. It's a technology agnostic use case scenario. It more to do with the fleet operators looking in for certain specific results from the vehicle. For example, the uptime, the load carrying capacity, and when it comes to, especially comes to the three-wheeler, electric three-wheeler, the range side of it. So three-wheeler use cases nobody has aspiration that I must have only the electric vehicle or only the diesel vehicle or only the petrol vehicle. They just want to have a vehicle which can carry the cargo or carry the passenger. It should remain on road. The number of hours is on it is on the road. It is directly proportional to the income which is getting generated. So as a three-wheeler makers, we have to ensure that these things has to be fulfilled. We have to give a good vehicle which can fulfill these requirements, and it can happen to be an electric vehicle. So it need not to be a, electric vehicle is not a USP per se, especially for this segment. Right. So that is the area I think, but good that the TCO is very good, and with the new technologies coming in from the various component makers, be it fast charging, be it swappable batteries, be it, the various kind of inventions which are happening, which are helping achieve these parameters, which is ultimately the customers are looking for in this segment. I believe that this is the segment which is going to grow in a much faster way compared to what is growing right now. So now also, this is one of the fastest growing segment, And as like everybody else says, in coming 2-3 years time, I believe that the majority of the L5 category 3-wheelers also will get converted to the EV.
Of course, it's growing at a very fast clip, but when it comes to new players, any new player, be it MTA or anyone else, any new brand is a challenger brand. So some of the factors which you mentioned are almost like hygiene factors.
Yes.
But for you, now, what are the pillars that you look at, or which are the spaces where you think there's an opportunity to really capitalize on, leverage on, to be a kind of, if not a formidable, at least a significant challenger brand?
So for a new player like us, everything is a challenge. So there is nothing which is not challenging. But as MTA, I can talk about my strategy. So as MTA, we are looking for very niche pockets. So we are not expecting that we will go pan-India and we will do, very big numbers and all. But definitely there are niche segments which are specific requirement areas where we can penetrate with the help of the kind of technology and kind of variations in the product we are trying to bring in. So we will be having very different specific requirement vehicles, which probably the larger players may not find it significant numbers, but we would like to enter the market with that kind of a specific segments and create a product differentiation. So as a new player, obviously we do not have a very strong brand strength with us, but definitely the product differentiation is strength and reaching to the people where the bigger players perhaps do not have the requirement to reach. So that is the area which we are targeting in.
Right. Coming to Kapil, you were the first in India when it comes to showcasing an electric motorcycle. I still recall 5-6 years ago in Bangalore.
Yeah, long time back.
Yes. But you commercialized last year, right?
Yeah.
And tell us now, what are the learnings now in this phase of in the presence in the market at the marketplace, meeting real customers, getting their feedback, and from a product evolution perspective, and also from a technology adoption perspective.
So first of all, thank you, Sumantra, calling me here. It's great to be here. From a product perspective, I think there's a lot that the customer wants. So I usually say to my team that the customer doesn't know that you're a startup. The customer knows that you're a company, and then you need everything as like a competitive brand. So you will have to have a best product, best pricing, best warranty, everything. So to bring that, you'll have to then invest enough time to make sure that everything for a customer, for a sales to happen, has to have 100% right or better. So you're not just there to, let's say, I am one more electric motorcycle. You have to actually outperform every expectation that the customer has. So
who is your customer comparing your Tork motorcycle with another electric motorcycle, or let's say an equivalent performance a petrol motorcycle like a Pulsar or something?
So my belief is everybody who comes to, let's say, an electric is in his head is sort of already bought that I am going to buy an electric vehicle.
Okay.
So that's the subset that we already have, and from there then you sort of shift to, let's say, what is your need? Would you want a scooter, take children to school, or you want to actually go to office in style? So these are two segments that you usually cater. We sort of think like this. And for what we do, we try and do the best. Let's say we are a electric motorcycle, but we want to become the best electric vehicle in this category. So then the torque at wheel, the acceleration, the technology, warranty, price, all has to be, let's say, at par or better. And then you think about where the customer is going to shift or not. So he's not coming to you because it's just electric. It also, what else are you giving it to him? So plus. So let's say motorcycle plus kya hoga?
Okay. So I'll come to that also in terms of what's the next level of evolution for the animal called electric motorcycle or electric scooter. Mohal, since he talked about the consumer part, tell us how is the electric vehicle, this whole trend is influencing the evolution and the kind of perspective of the end consumer towards consuming technology, understanding the vehicle, and therefore kind of designing their own desires and demands.
So over the last 2 years, customer education's really come up to a level where everyone knows what an electric vehicle is, how an electric vehicle works, and limitations to it to a certain extent. But then time and again come surprises, maybe in terms of safety, maybe in terms of reliability, on the battery, on the motor side. And that is the part where customers are at the core looking for a product which is safe and reliable. I mean, the basics of any product are for it to keep doing what it's supposed to be doing, keep delivering on the promises which are made on the box. And that is most essential to a consumer. If you're able to fulfill that piece of the demand, that it's gonna last, it's not gonna go into any adverse events, and it's gonna deliver what it says. Solving just that today is a significant comfort giver to the consumer, and that's good enough for them to start moving in.
Yeah.
But in terms of trends, yes, the asks have started going up. I mean, you're already at Gen 3, Gen 4 level asks. You're asking for telematics. I mean, there was a nice conversation just before this one. Consumers are asking what they feel is natural today. And most of the consumers today are people who've been brought up with a smartphone in hand. These guys have never seen cordless. They've not seen what CDMA was. I mean, these are people who have evolved in this era, and internet something that is but obvious. There's no life without the internet. Right. So that is where the consumer expectations from a product are also evolving, but the consumer is not letting go of the core basic. It has to be safe, it has to be reliable.
Right.
If whatever else you give has little meaning if this
is not in place. Absolutely.
Once you start delivering on this, then the word of mouth is really taking you far.
Then that term of exponential growth is but natural. So taking cue from that, Randheer, as you mentioned, the robustness of an EV, particularly on the safety aspect, is very, very crucial. And there has been some unfortunate incidents, and we have seen how as a policymaker, we have also kind of reacted to it with stringent norms. So how are you following up on that? You have got the AIS 156 in place, and you have taken some additional measures. So now, how do you plan to ensure that this becomes not just a kind of a one-off thing, but it becomes the whole industry comes to a certain level wherein these factors, like Mohal said, becomes the hygiene.
So from the regulation perspective, EV is still at a very nascent stage. We still don't comprehend completely the battery technology. Plus, from the compliance burden perspective, the regulation should not be too much so that it choke up the budding industry, but it should not be so less that even the consumers are put at risk. And in fact, this is what AIS 156, which is already implemented, and 038, which has to be done by March, tries to do. In fact, there's another way by which we can avoid such regulatory measures. When industry can come together, and if you go and let's say the Mahindra, they have their own quality gate system. In fact, they might be even stringent than whatever is outside, because once these quality gates are being cleared, definitely their product will be cleared by the outside.
So you enter the market already with a margin of safety.
Exactly. So that is what one way wherein the industry should set up, that these are the quality gates, these are the guidelines, these are the measures minimum which we will follow. But so why I am saying this in particular is because the incidents which has happened are not only from the unorganized or very small players, but rather bigger players also, which have the capabilities to put up this setup. So that is why this is very, very important. So of course, when industry failed to do this,
then you have to
regulatory measures has to be done, and which has already happened. Of course, I'm sure with these measures, there would be prevention of this, but one aspect where we have to be very mindful is, most of these measures can be related to two parts. One is, bigger part is the cell, and the second is the motor. The capacities of this, the manufacturing of this, thermal runaway within the cells. Of course, I'm not going into the deep how this has happened. But these are the two components right now being imported also.
Okay.
So how to deal with this? What are the testings which has to be done outside when you are importing this? UN 38.3 has to be followed or not to be followed. Not every cell which comes into this country has UN 38.3. You know, these are the few measures which these organizations should take now. Otherwise, you know, if the regulations are being put, you cannot import with these measures. It would be hard, right?
So basically, you're saying that do things which will attract a carrot from the policymaker or the government rather than the stick.
Because you have to build the, you know, consumer confidence has to continue. Such incidents not only impact the consumer confidence, but entire industry. And you know, when somebody says EV, it's not two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler. It's the entire ecosystem.
They generalize
yeah,
it.
for consumer, it's like everything.
So the entire EV earns a bad name.
Exactly.
In these
and it's just a budding and sunrise sector.
Absolutely. That's a clear message from Randheer there. So why wait for the government to intervene and come and force certain things? But coming to the regulation which is expected to kick in from March, there is also a representation that perhaps the deadline is a little too aggressive. Is there a rethinking on that part?
It was aggressive when it was October, right? The earlier it was October. It was postponed to December on the request of the industry only. So when industry representations were there, you know, again, it's a two-way road basically. Whether you want to focus more on one aspect wherein the entire industry is ready to comply and you wait up to the last person, or whether the 70-80% industry is already ready by this time and move ahead. So this is a, the decision which has to be made. And of course, finally, at the crux of this is the consumer, whose safety you have to ascertain.
So,
right?
so are you saying that NITI Aayog would like to move ahead with, if the majority of them are already prepared, and let the rest decide for themselves and come back and join later maybe?
No, this is not something which can be decided here or something. A comprehensive assessment has to be made. What is the status right now? What is the status within the industry players? What is going to be the impact on the overall industry, the sales, the orders which has been placed? Only then this decision can be made, right?
Correct. Suman, I mean, this edition of the EV Conclave also has a dimension of future mobility. And electric vehicle megatrend is also, it presents itself as a good space, and much of it, because this electric is the future. Almost every form factor of new mobility will be have an electric propulsion. And your organization, your focus is on the last mile mobility. So tell us how is this space going to evolve as part of an extension of the EV industry? And you yourself had showcased one concept during the previous Auto Expo. So could you throw some light on how this space you expect to evolve, and how do you plan to make your kind of move there?
Okay, maybe I'll parse that question and answer it in three different buckets, right? One is the technology itself is going to evolve, right? As the cell manufacturing comes to India and we get robust cells made for Indian temperature conditions, then that is one aspect of the technology itself. It could be lithium, but maybe all the other technologies, zinc air, sodium air, aluminum air, all these not sodium air, zinc air, aluminum air, all these metal air technologies which are maybe in concept stage today, hopefully they will come to fruition soon. So that is the one tranche of development on the technology itself. Then there is the second tranche on the form factor, which you are alluding to, quadricycles. Will they come through? Yeah, I hope they'll come through with some push and support. We are still discussing.
We are all waiting for the Mahindra option.
Yes, we are. We are also very eager to put it out. Obviously, there are certain challenges related to the policy, which we will discuss always.
There's a message for Randheer there.
This is something maybe not for this forum, but individual discussion we can have this. So this is actually a pretty viable option if you look at sort of Europe. They have many nice players, good players with very high quality quadricycles, which is safe and it doesn't go very high speed, and it provides the lower priced entry. So the barrier to entry for that form factor doesn't become so high that it is today. It becomes like a fraction of it. So that is good, and that hopefully will be a category that can evolve here. Then the third thing I'll just say is connected technologies. That is becoming a key requirement. So if you look at the electric cargo segment, at least with three-wheelers, everything is connected. And that is allowing us to put on a data layer, which is allowing the fleet aggregators, for example, to understand their vehicle performance, to understand how they are doing charging. And that in itself, this connected layer is going to enable us to do the second life battery application, because you will know we anyway have the data. So the history of the battery, which allows us to create this second bit of problem that is there on the residual value, which can be solved by the second life battery application, but also usage optimization. So the effectiveness will increase, which will in itself increase the penetration. So while I don't think there'll be fancy and glamorous things coming through, but in all these three aspects, we'll see evolution.
Great. And one last question to Kapil. No, I mean, you started off as a startup, an independent startup. Now you are part of a large organization, one of the leading component manufacturers, Bharat Forge. How much of a difference does it make to the overall plans, to the overall kind of technology, product rollout plans, and just your overall plans in kind of scaling up and in executing those plans rather?
So we usually play to our strengths. So let's say we are a startup, we are agile, we can develop technology faster. But that does not mean we can produce faster. And then whenever there is this problem, when who's going to produce, there is a lot of manufacturing and tooling and people, then I sort of lean towards them and say, this is what my problem is. So as I think a collaborative approach, I think it's working out very well. So if you see us, we're building a new factory, we focus on the product now more. So there are a couple of things that we sort of, now it's a collaboration. So they have a very good manufacturing capability. So I'm just leveraging that.
Indeed, the automotive industry is becoming increasingly collaborative in nature, and primary reason for that is this, a key reason is this electrification megatrend. But before we end this, Randheer, I can't end this without asking you for one key question, which I'm sure is in the minds of many people in this room, the FAME 2 policy, an extension, no extension, new variant, or maybe a FAME 3.
So, again, this is something which is a matter of debate also, but one thing is whenever...
You still have some time because
we have time till 2024, and whenever the decision has to be taken, it has to be taken on the basis of the level of maturity the entire electric vehicle ecosystem has reached to, the type of competition which is there, and of course the type of manufacturing capabilities available within our country. I mean, considering all these things, plus one very important question, after two-wheeler, three-wheeler and others, what next? So considering these questions together, I think that is how this decision should be taken.
Right, you very well summed up. After two and three wheelers, what next? Will there be more warriors in the beyond two and three wheelers? And looks like there could be. But on that note, ladies and Suman and all the gentlemen here, thank you very much for your time. Really enjoyed conducting this session, and I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, you also benefited from it and took some very good insights shared by the esteemed panelists. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.